Hey, what's up? This is Coach Raheem, and here's something to think about. So many times, many of us will spend time going through our day and living our life and not really analyzing if we're doing what we should be doing. And many times I think that people don't analyze what they should be doing because they don't really know themselves, and that's such a key component to every single thing that you do. You think that getting out there and working hard and grinding and doing whatever it is that you think you're supposed to be doing, but you don't really stop to think, is this me? Is this what I am supposed to be doing? And because you haven't taken time out to analyze who you are, you spend so much time working in areas that don't suit you, that have nothing to do with you. And self-awareness is so overlooked, Like we spend so much time doing so many different things. And, even for the people who have a sense of awareness, you have knowledge of self, you kind of know. There's still this point where, do you do it enough? Like, I think that our attention span is so short, we have to be very careful about forgetting who we are, not who you are in the sense of the larger sense, like your family, where you come from and all of that. I'm talking about forgetting who you are in the sense of, do you remember that as you go through your day, like your responsibility to honor who you are and not honor who you are in regards to or in contrast to someone else, because it always blows my mind when people talk about competition, as if you really can't compete with someone else, when it's never about competition, it's about creation. It's always about creation. And it's so confusing because we use our senses, our eyes, our ears, our mouth, and we focus so much on what someone else is doing that it becomes competitive instead of just, appreciating what someone else does or learning from what other people do. Those things are great, but not the competitive. Like, you can't compete with somebody, not really. True competitors understand that competition is always with self, is never with the next person. You might think it's with the next person, but it's not. You can't compete with nobody else. It's always going to be about what you bring to the table. And when you focus on what you bring to the table, it becomes more about your ability to create, your creativity. In other words, when I talk about creativity, I'm talking about what you bring from inside of you to the external world. Like, are you focusing on that? That's where you live. Live in yourself. Live in your area of creativity. When you see others doing things, learn, but don't compete. Don't compete. It's such a thing. Like, so many people focus on that competition thing. Even when you look at sports, the athletes that are the ones who win at super high levels, I'm talking about like the Michael Jordans or the Kobe's or the LeBron James, those people, when you really zero in and listen to the conversations that they have when they're being their most vulnerable and they're being their truth, when you listen to them, you have to sift through, because a lot of times when people put cameras in people's faces, there's so many things going on. People will respond and say things that sometimes reflect their own personal view, and sometimes it will reflect the view of the context of the audience that they're speaking in front of at the time. But when you listen to people who are truly competitive people never compete with other people. They are focusing on being as creative as they possibly can. They're trying to bring out something that's inside of them, very deep down inside. It's very personal. Personal things are never competitive. They're never competitive, and everything is personal. Some people like to say it ain't personal. No, it's very personal. Don't believe them if they tell you that it's not personal. It's always personal. In fact, when you overlook the fact that it's personal, that's the mistake that a lot of people make. Because the person that they are speaking to or working with or doing anything around or involved with and all that kind of stuff, they say all of these things, but the reason why the person may be uncomfortable or not connecting and all is sometimes when you look at the relationship, is because you have not successfully understood that it's so personal. It's so personal, but it's not competitive personal. It's not personal as in you try to outdo someone else, because you cannot outdo someone else. You can't. There's no comparison. We're too unique. We as people are very similar in a lot of ways, but the ways that matter the most, our uniqueness, cannot be compared to anybody else. So if you really want to advance yourself, it's truly about knowledge of self. Truly. It's about self-awareness. It's about realizing that you were already a brand when you were born. All you have to do is promote, produce, and put yourself out there so much that you get past all of the naysayers, you get past all of the negativity, and you reach that point where someone looks at you and go, there's a need for this person to be in my life. There's a need. There's this. And once you resonate with people on that level, you become valuable to them. They begin to see your value. And once they see your value, all you have to do is keep on, keeping on. And eventually you get to the point where, guess what? Now people begin to say, you know what? I have to compensate this person in some kind of way for what they are doing for me. It happens. I'm telling you, it's happening to me right now. It's happening. The key to enjoying your life, to having the kind of life that you really want, is not in competition. Forget about the competition. Focus on what you do best. Focus on you. Knowledge of self, your self-awareness. How aware are you? And how often are you remembering to revisit yourself, your own person, and get away from trying to compete with anybody else? When you try to compete with somebody else, you're going to lose. That's just the way it is. You're going to lose. Michael Jordan said the reason why he won so much, so consistently, is because he was competing with himself and everybody else was competing with him. Dig that. This is Coach Raheem. Get at me.